You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis. You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis. You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
Good morning, Car Clinic affiliates. Your Car Clinic minutes for the week of June the 8th are about to head your way, so go ahead and press that record button. As always, thank you for listening to and broadcasting Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Have a great weekend.
Hi, I'm Bobby Likis with another Car Clinic Minute. We look for shortcuts everywhere. Online buying, TV dinners, blow-dry hairstyles. I know a 20-minute automotive preventive maintenance trick that'll save time and money when I come back.
O'Reilly. When your battery goes dead, everything can come to a stop. Don't take a chance on getting stranded. Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts and get your battery tested free of charge. If your battery does need to be replaced, O'Reilly Auto Parts can help you find the exact Superstart battery that fits your car or truck at a guaranteed low price. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
An ounce of prevention's worth a pound of cure. Yes, 20 minutes of driving could be worth days in the shop. Why? Driving your car just a couple of miles, especially in cold weather, doesn't produce enough heat to burn the moisture that forms internally. This unevaporated moisture contaminates oil and sticks to engine parts, increasing wear and tear. To prevent damage, drive at least 20 minutes at 50 miles an hour every week. Another ounce of prevention? Change oil and filter every 3,000 miles. I'm Bobby Likis. Like us, you'll love us. Hi, I'm Bobby Likis with another Car Clinic Minute. Kindness, love, friendship. All Cinderella gifts that keep on giving. Now add this wicked stepsister to the list. Potholes. They start in winter and keep giving all year long. When I come back, I'll fill you in.
O'Reilly.
When your battery goes dead, everything can come to a stop. Don't take a chance on getting stranded. Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts and get your battery tested free of charge. If your battery does need to be replaced, O'Reilly Auto Parts can help you find the exact Superstart battery that fits your car or truck at a guaranteed low price. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Potholes. They're not pretty on the outside, and the damage they can do is ugly too. Winter's low temperatures, snowfall, and freezing rain take their toll. These elements cause pavement to shrink and expand beyond its stretching ability, resulting in street craters or potholes. Tires and alignment are obvious victims of dives into potholes, but the dirt and grit of standing water corrode brake components too. So don't ignore warning signs of damage. They, like potholes, won't go away. I'm Bobby Likis. Like us, you'll love us. Hi, I'm Bobby Likis with today's Car Clinic Minute. When you hear smooth sailing, you feel ocean breezes, see palm trees, and taste coconut rum. The picture of summer, right? Maybe, but old man Winter's got another version. When I come back, I'll tell you.
O'Reilly.
When your battery goes dead, everything can come to a stop. Don't take a chance on getting stranded. Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts and get your battery tested free of charge. If your battery does need to be replaced, O'Reilly Auto Parts can help you find the exact Superstart battery that fits your car or truck at a guaranteed low price. O'Reilly Auto Parts, better prices every day.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Summer sailing's on water, but winter's version's on ice. You know the feeling. The rubber's on the road where it belongs, and suddenly your south has headed north. Ice sailing. Here's what to do. Take your foot off the gas and put your hands on the steering wheel at 9 and 3 o'clock. Gradually apply brakes and turn the wheel in the direction of the slide. And next time you head through the Crystal City, slow down. It takes 4 to 10 times as long to stop on ice. I'm Bobby Likis. Like us, you'll love us. Hi, I'm Bobby Likis with today's Car Clinic Minute. Your car coughing, sputtering, riding rough? Think your service center has one magic machine that checks everything? Oh no, one size doesn't fit all. When I come back, I'll give you the scoop. The scoop.
O'Reilly.
When your battery goes dead, everything can come to a stop. Don't take a chance on getting stranded. Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts and get your battery tested free of charge. If your battery does need to be replaced, O'Reilly Auto Parts can help you find the exact Superstart battery that fits your car or truck at a guaranteed low price. O'Reilly Auto Parts, better prices every day.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Just like in a doctor's office, different diagnostic tools are used for different symptoms in service centers. A scope performs an EKG on your car's electrical system and checks engine functions as it runs, just like a patient on a treadmill. A scanner, on the other hand, talks with cars' onboard computers and sensors, like getting a patient history. But if your car has new noises, hard steering, bumpy ride, or vibrating brakes, you don't need a machine test. You need a doctor, a qualified, experienced technician. I'm Bobby Likis. Like us, you'll love us. Hi, I'm Bobby Likis with today's Car Clinic Minute. Name some things that are different. Apples, oranges. Men, women. Football, soccer. How about tune-ups? If you think they're all the same, think again. And when I come back, I'll tell you all about it.
O'Reilly.
When your battery goes dead, everything can come to a stop. Don't take a chance on getting stranded. Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts and get your battery tested free of charge. If your battery does need to be replaced, O'Reilly Auto Parts can help you find the exact Superstart battery that fits your car or truck at a guaranteed low price. O'Reilly Auto Parts, better prices every day.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Why does your tune-up cost $500, but your neighbor's only $100? Apples and oranges. Although symptoms in two vehicles are similar, actual problems can vary dramatically. Here's what I mean. Your neighbor's V8 engine is running on 7 cylinders due to a bad plug wire. Tune-up cost $100. Your V8 engine's also running on 7 cylinders, but it's due to a burned valve. Tune-up cost 5 times $100. My advice? Investigate the diagnosis before you relegate your wallet. I'm Bobby Likis. Likis, you'll love us.
Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 3-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 1-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 30-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 10-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. If you have a car question for Bobby, call now at 1-800-264-5454, toll free from anywhere in America. And now, here's your host, Bobby Likis.
And a special good morning. Welcome to this edition of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Sit back right along with me this hour. That's right, for the next hour, or two, actually. We come to you every Saturday for 2 hours from 10 till noon Eastern Time. So just remember that, because there are stations that air this program at different times. Even tomorrow, Sunday, there are some stations that will air Bobby Likis Car Clinic. So for you, those of you listening now, whether it's real time now, or it's Sunday, which is not, but if it is tomorrow, then just remember that from every Saturday from 10 till noon Eastern Time, you can call 888 Car Clinic, and Millie will take your call, put you in the queue, and I will put you on the air. Oil filters. I have a favorite white paper on oil filters, and I want to share a few things with you when I come back. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is brought to you in part by the Car Care Council, our partners. With summer just around the corner, folks, make sure your family's memories aren't made sitting on the side of the road. Follow the 3 P's of car care: prevent, plan, and prepare. Exactly, the 3 P's: prevent, plan, and prepare. You can learn more at carcare.org, and while you're there, pick up a free copy of your Car Care Guide for your glove compartment, chock full of information that will save you money. Your calls when I come back at 888 Car Clinic. 2013 Honda Accord came in the shop running rough, stalling, and a check engine light. The vehicle had originally been repaired by another shop. After a thorough diagnosis, we found the vehicle was generating a bad signal from the crankshaft position sensor. This seemed odd as it had just recently been replaced, but the scope doesn't lie. A bad waveform signal needs to be fixed. Our solution? A new crankshaft position sensor from Motorrad. A longtime leader for vehicle thermostats and caps, Motorrad now offers engine management products that are engineered to meet and or exceed OEM specifications. They're designed to perform under severe operating conditions and are resistant to extreme heat. We made the change and that fixed the car. Motorrad engine management products are manufactured in Tier 1 OEM facilities with top quality qualifications. They undergo comprehensive 100% in-line and end-of-line testing to ensure uncompromising quality. Learn more about Motorrad engine management products and other Motorrad solutions at motorrad.com. Our inbox has been especially full these past few weeks as people are looking for advice regarding keeping their vehicles road ready. Jim from Dallas wrote, "What can I do to make sure my vehicles are prepared and ready to go?" Jim, the economic impact of the current health crisis has touched every hardworking American. Making your dollar stretch further is more important than ever before. Commuting to grocery stores and other essential outlets has changed the way most Americans drive. Shorter trips and lower operating temperatures can increase the probability of carbon buildup in your vehicle's engine combustion chamber. Look to Berryman products to help maintain optimum performance and MPG. Berryman's intake valve and combustion chamber cleaner is a simple-to-use kit that can truly add fuel economy, better performance, and longevity to your vehicle's engine. Regular use of Berryman B12 fuel system cleaner can assist you in maintaining a clean and healthy fuel injection system. Check out Berryman products' complete line of maintenance and cleaning products designed for do-it-yourselfer and professional technicians alike at berrymanproducts.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
P. Ricey Outfitters, I'm Tina. How can I help you?
I'd like to place an order.
Great. Which item?
The cotton roll neck sweater, large.
Okay. Periwinkle, Loden, or caramel?
The caramel, please.
The what?
I'd like it in caramel.
Oh, the caramel?
Yeah, that's what I said, Tina.
Actually, you said caramel when it's pronounced caramel.
Can't we just call it yellow?
No.
Everyone knows the best part of a Milky Way. They just don't know how to say it. After all, it's our caramel.
It's caramel.
Ugh, that makes a Milky Way great.
You start my morning, you stir in my soul, you warm my heart, make me feel whole. Your aroma calls me, starts my morning, happy morning. Your name is Folgers Mountain Grow, now you're here. Your aroma helps me wake and the day is mine to take. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
Okay, let's get started with this hour. And again, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Every Saturday, I come to you as just your personal car consultant. So if you have a car question or if you have maybe a particular, you find yourself in a situation where you've got an automobile that you've had for a long time, it served you relatively well. I mean, you know, nothing really unordinary. You know, maybe you lost a water pump, maybe you had to put a timing belt on it, which you should do. Timing chains and timing belts, and that's another story I could get into. Just to you should know whether your car has a belt or a chain, and your service provider can easily tell you whether your engine comes with a timing chain or with a timing belt. And just remember that chains require no maintenance. They're inside the engine, whereas belts do require maintenance. They're located on the outside of the engine. I think it's very interesting. I'm not sure how the manufacturing engineering process all started out years ago when they said, well, okay, let's take the chain and make a belt drive. But a lot of that came, I think, from you've all seen maybe these top fuel drag racers, and I had to get racing in there because I love drag races. There's a Gilmer belt, it's called, and the Gilmer belt is a very wide belt, usually 2, 3, 4. It could be 4.5 inches wide, and it has cogs or teeth on the inside, and all. So that's a Gilmer belt. That's the design of it, and all timing belts are Gilmer, which means that they're not designed on how much tension or they're not designed like a V-belt where you have a regular V-belt that doesn't ride down in the pulley. It rides on the walls of a V-shaped pulley and wedges itself in there. So the tighter you put a V-belt, then the more pressure it will turn, and the more power it will provide without slipping. And slippage, some slippage is okay if you've got an alternator or a water pump when you first fire the engine up. And if you've got a loose belt, which there are automatic tensioners now on automobiles, because the engines, you didn't think about this, but engines grow and they shrink. So a cold engine, as a rule, a cold engine, if you've got like a timing belt, it will jump time when you go to crank the engine in the morning. In fact, quite often our customers will say, "Well, Bobby, I cranked the engine and it went dead. It fired and then it just went dead. Now it won't start." And that's because when the engine is cold, the engine is shorter than it is when it's hot, meaning that the distance between the crankshaft and the camshaft is less, because the cylinder head is aluminum, and a lot of engines are aluminum, so that there's a shrinkage there. So that means that when you have the two pulleys that are closer together, then the tension is less on the belt. And so there are design procedures, not procedures, but design mechanical devices that hold tension and make up for and allow for the cold and the hot process. But getting back to the timing chains, which are internal in the engine, they too have a tensioner, a timing chain tensioner. Unfortunately, because they are a fixed length, then that tensioner assembly can only extend out so far. The good news is when it extends out, when the chain wears, it will click into it has little teeth. We'll call those gears. It has 30 sets of gears, let's say, or 30 teeth. And each tooth, each time that the chain has worn enough and the sprockets have worn enough, and like overhead cams have multi-chains and multi-sprockets. So when that distance allows for the tensioner to click one more click, then that means it's okay for that chain tensioner to be extended that far. But the chain tensioner has a sprocket itself, like a step. Just imagine taking steps. So that chain tensioner will take a tiny step forward, but it can't go backwards because it's locked as it goes forward. And that means that when the engine is cold, it will still have ample pressure on the chain to make sure the chain doesn't jump time. And time means the phasing between the cams and the valves and the crankshaft and the pistons. So when that happens, the pistons can interfere, if you've got an interference engine, with the valves. The valves hit the piston, and that costs you a lot of money. So just know that there's really no maintenance on a chain except for changing oil and filter, and I can get into that a little bit later. But that is one of the highest priorities of the new G6 oil, is making the oil light enough in viscosity, like 0.16. I mean, think about it. 2050 is what I use in my classic Porsche, but now we have we have 5W20 and 1030 and those sorts of things. Now we have, and 0.20, now we have 0.16, and also you will be seeing 0.8. Well, that's like water. So when you have an oil that is that thin, it allows you being the engine manufacturers, to make an engine with tolerances that are that tight, so that when the engine has 200,000 miles of wear on it, for all intents and purposes, it's not worn as much as the engine 10 years earlier was made with. And I find it very interesting. So, well, why do they make that so tight? Because the tighter the engine is, the more efficient it is, and the emissions, and it's all about, not all about, but mostly about emissions. Anyway, a little more on oil and filters. I'll tell you about filters. But first, let's go to Mexico. We'll take a call from Tim. Tim, good morning. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Glad to have you with us.
Good morning. How is everybody today?
Well, everybody's just fine. And you, sir, how's your health and your family?
We're good.
Good. That's great.
My daughter's at school and college, so she's good, I hope.
You hope. Well, let me ask you a question, Tim. Did you buy your daughter or acquire a car for her to go to college? And is that, that's one of the biggest challenges that parents have is their kids go off to college, young guys and girls go off to college, and you put them in a car, and there's two options. You can buy a really nice newer car, which I wasn't fortunate enough to have, or you can just buy some old beater, or you can get a hand-me-down. So which is it for you?
I'm a car fanatic. It's amazing. It's my life. Everything is related to cars somehow. My daughter is totally opposite. She's 21. She's going to be a senior in college in Mexico State in Las Cruces, New Mexico. She doesn't even have a driver's license. She relies on her friends for rides, but she's a bicycle person.
Wow. Now, it's very interesting that you should bring that up about the driver's license because, see, that wasn't even a question in my mind, but it does spark this reaction. And I haven't found my source of information. So for those of you who would challenge this, I don't blame you, but I'm still looking for where I got this information. But I was so taken with this information that I'd never forgotten it. But today, as we speak, 50% of all 19-year-olds in the United States do not have driver's license. And I find that, and then of course, with the phones and the touchpads and texting and all that, if Bobby wants to see Tim, then we can go on our screens and TV, or we can talk on the telephones we are now. But if we want to see face to face, we can do that as well with computers. And it appears that that's truly what the young folks are doing more of these days. And I can tell you right now, it will be being the lack of those people like yourself and like I who are really have a passion for cars. While there are people that still have a passion for cars, there are very few fathers who have their sons and or daughters in the driveway that tell them how to change a tire or change oil, because number one, it's not that easy any longer. There's panels you have to remove to get to the oil filters and those sorts of things, and it's just not in our society. So I said all that to say, Tim, that sooner or later the industry is going to run short, and I'm taking that back. Already happened. We are short on technicians in the industry because of that, and even the average age of technicians in the industry is right at 50 years of age. The average age, 48, I believe, is the last stat that I got. So yeah, that's very interesting information, and it just tells me, well, who's going to fix my car next? You know what I'm saying? What time is it in New Mexico? Oh no, I mean, what are gas prices in New Mexico? Let's just ask.
I was going to say, what time is it? The gas price this morning is $1.75.
Oh, hey, you're up from $1.25 and $30 and $35 it's been lately.
Yes, it looks like we're getting back to the usual, or I guess the new normal.
The new normal. Now that's another. We'll all have to live with that.
Yeah,
I guess.
That's a long story itself.
Yeah, it sure is. Well, as always, heartbreak coming up. More calls coming in, but Tim, always good to hear from you. And
yes, sir.
So I thank you for your call every week. And be safe, stay safe, and hats off and congratulations on your daughter in college. Okay, we're going to come back and take a call from Mike. And then I'm going to share with you a little bit about oil filters. Interesting. Cooling system repairs. We've all needed them. But what happens when that local mechanic or your garage is miles away? Situations like this were made for K-Seal, a pour-in solution that helps stop cooling system leaks. Older sealers use sodium silicate, which can clog the system. K-Seal features ceramic technology designed to repair the leak without clogging. Tough times create the need to be prepared. Make K-Seal part of your emergency road kit. K-Seal is available nationwide at stores like O'Reilly Auto Parts. Go to O'ReillyAuto.com for store hours and shipping options. As we kick off National Car Care Month in the midst of COVID-19, making sure your vehicle is road ready has never been more important. The Car Care Council remind you it's the perfect time for a thorough check of various vehicle maintenance items, like brakes, batteries, tires, cooling system, filters, headlights, and the exhaust system. Visit carcare.org to find out how you can best keep your vehicle safe and dependable. It's National Car Care Month. Are you Car Care aware? Learn more at carcare.org. That's carcare.org. This car repair spotlight brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. In the shop this week was a 97 Lincoln Town Car with a broken trunk lid closer. This device was designed to automatically lock the deck lid, but when it goes bad, the lid won't lock or even close all the way. The issue we faced was the original Ford unit was fairly expensive and the local dealer didn't stock that item, and my customer needed his car back. Much to everyone's delight, our local O'Reilly Auto Parts professional located the part and delivered it same day. Fact is, the part was a dormant updated unit that had been redesigned to correct the gears that typically strip out. In other words, a better part than the Lincoln came with new. This is another reason our service team buys from O'Reilly Auto Parts. Given they have so many stores nationwide, it's all but impossible to find replacement parts there. Our customer was smiling, the technician happy he was able to get the car fixed that day, and the new part worked like a charm. This car repair spotlight brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
The airlines like to have sales. Summer getaway sales, holiday sales, winter sales. Truth is, at any moment, some airline somewhere is on sale with low fares to great destinations. Travelocity knows exactly what's going on, who's on sale, to where, and when, at over 700 airlines worldwide. We even have this nifty feature that lets you look at a calendar so that you can see exactly the days the great fares are available. Travelocity.com. Go virtually anywhere. AOL keyword, travel.
Hun, guess my temperature.
It's 2 a.m. Go to sleep.
Come on, one guess.
Higher, 98.
Higher.
Higher, 99.
You're getting warmer. Wait, I'm getting warmer.
Cold symptoms keeping you from getting a good night's sleep? Get NyQuil, the nighttime sniffling, sneezing, coughing, aching, stuffy head, fever so you can sleep better to feel better medicine. Use as directed.
One more guess.
100?
Yes. Tell her what she's won, Bob.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to this segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Bobby Likis Car Clinic brought to you in part this morning by Motorrad, your first choice for vehicle thermostats, caps, and engine management products. And folks, Motorrad will help make sure that your vehicle is road ready during these uncertain times that we're going through now. You can learn more about Motorrad at motorrad.com. Great company. Supplier to the OEMs, that's the original equipment manufacturers that we buy our new cars from, and also a powerful supplier of thermostats and caps and engine management systems to the aftermarket, and that would be yours truly. So just go to motorrad.com for more information and learn a little bit about what their product is and why one product maybe outperforms another product. And I can tell you this, the difference between product A and product B could be minuscule, but the difference that it would make in the application is serious business. And you would say, well, what do you mean? And I'm specifically, let's just make it easy and talk about oils, because you all know a little bit about oil, or at least we all would like to think that we do. At least you know what brand you can go buy. Not that it's any better than the other brand, but that's okay. For some reason, at one point in our life, we at one time I thought Valvoline oil, it was the oil, the only oil, and that if you didn't use Valvoline, your engine would blow up. And of course, my engine blew up, but it wasn't the oil's fault. It was my fault. That was when we were building race cars. When you build a racing engine, and you're a novice, and you're not an engineer, you try to make that engine do things that it wasn't designed to do. And the weakest link will break. And then you fix that. And when what happens, another weak link breaks, and pretty soon you fix everything to where everything is not breaking, and then you do something to make more power, which creates the whole rhythm all over again. Anyway, great to have you in the house today. Millie will take your calls, by the way, at 888-227-2546. That's 888 Car Clinic. We'll take a call from Mike Mike, thank you for holding. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. How you doing this morning?
Good morning, Bobby. I listen to you every Saturday, and this coming Tuesday, I'm going to bring my car into your shop at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I'm going to get you to zero it out again. It's an '08 Toyota Avalon. I bought it at Frontier Motors, brought it into you, and you zeroed it out, and now it's a little shy of 30,000 miles later, and you're going to zero it out again. And
So
I'm just looking forward to doing that. It's the best car I've ever had. It runs great.
Yeah, that's those really are Avalons are terrific automobiles, and you look at different manufacturers. You know, the Nissans of the world, the Toyotas, of course, of the world, and the Mercedes and the Fords and the Jags of the world. And for my nickel, and I've never owned one. I don't drive one, and I'm not being paid to say this, but Toyota makes the best cars in the world. They
well,
really.
This one is it's a good one, and for everybody that's listening, to zero it out is the oil is changed, the transmission is flushed, the brake system is flushed, the power steering system is flushed. Everything but the windshield wiper, just about. And in addition to that, I'm going to have you do an upper injection system on it to clean that thing out. I've got a K&N filter on it already, and it's going to be good for another 30,000 miles. And along with that warranty that you have that I've never had to use yet.
Well, how many miles, not miles on the car, you said 30, how many miles do you drive a year?
Oh, probably less than 10,000.
You know, Mike, years ago, there was a company, actually there's a professor at MIT that was working on an engine oil analyzer in real time, and he designed, and I was part of a beta tester. There were, I think, 105 or so folks that were involved across the country. And of course, when I say across the country, if you're going to beta test a product, and it was all about reading of oil, and it tested the oil for moisture. It tested the oil for other things that I won't go into, how much metal was in the oil and what have you, and it replaced it being the tester was like a number 10 gauge wire, which is a pretty fat wire, and on the very end of this wire there was a chip about maybe the size of one of your index finger joints, and that would submerge in the oil, and you didn't have a dipstick. You just put this device in there, and then it had a sealed plug at the top, and then that wire went into a little black box like we have in cars these days, a little module, and it would measure the viscosity of the oil. It would measure how much water was in the oil. It would measure the electricity compatibility of in the oil and the metal and those sorts of things. And then, so I was part of that national beta testing program. And at that time, I had a Mini Cooper that I'd bought new for my wife. And this Mini Cooper had, 16,000 miles. And so I tested it for 4,000 miles. And every Sunday, when I would park the car in the garage every Sunday night, I would download the data from the car. And I didn't have to open the hood. The data was Wi-Fi'd to my laptop, which is right in the kitchen, within 15 feet of the garage, 10 feet. So the bottom line, I would then take those readings from which looked like gobbledygook. They were all numbers and as algorithms. And I would on Monday, I would email that to myself, and then on Monday when I came into the office, I would email that to a company in California that was not a university, but it was a retail organization that was supporting the university's program. And so the name of the product was called IntelliStick, and Professor Hoffman as I remember, was the gentleman who invented the IntelliStick, or at least he was head of the project. Anyway, of all of the 105 beta testers, there was one leader, just like there's Coca-Cola and then there's the rest. Now we know there's Pepsi and other soft drinks, but if you look at the sales, you've got Coke at the top, and then way down the ladder, the others start. So head and shoulders above. So of all 105 beta testers, my car was the best. And what they didn't know was, they being Dr. Kaufman and also the IntelliStick company in California, what they didn't know was that what I did was I was using at that time Royal Purple engine oil, but I was also fortifying synthetic oil. And now, fortifying, how do you fortify oil? You add an additive to it, just like we talk about the Berryman and you've heard me talk about the Berryman B60 engine oil rejuvenator. That is an engine oil fortifier, which means there are chemicals, additives that reduce friction that are in that Berryman B60 engine oil rejuvenator that are not in the oil, because the EPA controls what's in the oil. And according to the EPA, and just like a lot of, just like when we do testing on animals and we say, gosh, rats are allergic to Coca-Cola. Oh, how do you know that? Well, because we gave a rat a gallon of Coke one night and he died. And I mean, and I'm, being facetious, but that's the way the lab test runs. So what we did was, and my point is that the EPA does not allow ZDDP, which is zinc and other phosphorus and other anti-wear properties in today's oil. In fact, the oil that we use in cars today is inferior to the oil that, number one, race drivers use, not the same oil. Even if Castrol or Mobil 1 sponsors the Formula One guys or the NASCAR guys, it's still not the same oil that we get and we think it is. I used to think it was the same, but it's not. Anyway, but that's neither here nor there. The additive package that is available from aftermarket companies that are not controlled like big oil companies, because the penetration is a nit as compared to the number of companies that sell oil. In other words, Mobil 1 sells billions of quarts of oil, and Berryman sells hundreds of bottles of Berryman B60 oil rejuvenator. I said all that to say this, Mike, and back to your taking care of your Avalon and how well that's working for you. For me, at a beta tester, I would take and add an additive to the synthetic oil that didn't need the additive. And so therefore, and think about this, folks, remind yourself, and I don't want to get too technical into oil, but let's say that we're going to change oil at 5,000 mile intervals. And let's say the oil starts out, let's say in a brand new engine, it would be a 10. And 0 is bad, 10 is the best. Well, once you have miles on an engine and you change oil, you don't get all the old oil out. So when you put the new oil in, unless you flush the engine, some of the contaminants, half a quart of the contaminants, contaminate the new oil. So every time you change oil, a certain portion of old oil damages the new oil, unless you were to flush the engine. So that being said, new oil in an engine starts out not at a 10, in a new engine it does, because the new engine doesn't have any residual. But as the engine has wear and miles and oxidized oil that sticks to the walls, let's say a car that has 30, 40, 50,000 miles, that oil that's left in that engine, when you change it, will damage the new oil. And here's where I'm going with this. So at half-life, let's say you're going to change it at 5,000 miles. At 2,500 miles, that number 7 oil, which is, let's say it started out as a 7 or 8 rating, is down to about a 5 or a 4. Now, what is it at the end of 5,000 miles? Well, if you're thinking along graph lines, it's about a 2. So the question is, when in the oil's used life is the engine damaged the most? Well, That's easy. The last 1,000 miles, which means the dirtiest the oil is, it contains more of everything, damages the engine. So old oil damages the engine or protects it less than brand new oil or than not used oil. So here's what we did. I created what's called when I come back, I'll tell you, because it's really important. It's called Booster Shot. And it has a specific application. And Mike, you stay with me, folks. Call in, 888-227-2546. Spring has sprung and summer's around the corner. We're all hoping for a return to some normalcy, which means road trips to the beach, the lake, grandma's house, and other favorite vacation spots. A little preventive vehicle maintenance now will help you avoid trouble ahead. Visit carcare.org to find out how you can best keep your vehicle safe, dependable, and roadworthy. While you're there, order your copy of the free Car Care Guide for your glove box. Go to carcare.org. That's carcare.org. Don't bust your knuckles, bust nuts with PB Blaster, the #1 selling penetrant for freeing up rusted parts. Now Blaster introduces their revolutionary Pro Straw with control flow technology. It's a better way to spray, featuring a new flip-up straw and a volume adjuster to control the flow from a wide spray to a precision stream to just a drop. More precision with less mess, and no one else has it. The Blaster Pro Straw. Look for it on cans of PB Blaster and Multi-Max synthetic lube. Always use Blaster products and work it like a pro.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Waking up can be a chore, but morning's knocking on my front door. Know just what I'll do. Put on a pot of Folgers brew. Mountain grown aroma hits the spot. Helps me give all that I've got. An opportunity to start out smiling and happy. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
I'm privileged to be involved with Capstone Adaptive Learning, formerly known as United Cerebral Palsy, for over 25 years. Since 1953, Capstone has provided quality care programs for persons with developmental disabilities like autism, cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, and intellectual disabilities. Dr. Sherry White with her team are dedicated to Capstone's clients, and 100% of your contributions stay local to serve those in this community. Go to capstoneadaptivelearning.org to see the difference Capstone makes.
Technology moves at the speed of innovation, and today, that's lightning fast. So when you get your hands on the latest tech, don't forget to do the right thing with your old devices. Recycle them. The Consumer Technology Association and its members are making recycling your old tech device as easy as purchasing new ones. Just go to greenergadgets.org, type in your zip code, and you'll instantly find the responsible recycling location closest to your home. You'll also find lots of tips to simplify your recycling, like asking the store where you buy your new TV if they'll haul away your old one. Television sets, video game consoles, smartphones, tablets, they're all recyclable. Don't let them clog up your local landfill. Just visit greenergadgets.org. You're sharp enough to get the latest tech tools into your home. Now be responsible enough to get your old devices to the recycler. That's greenergadgets.org.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to this segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Today's broadcast is brought to you in part by Blaster Corporation, the makers of, you guessed it, PB Blaster, which is known for breaking free rusted parts. Remember to always use Blaster products and work it like a pro. For more information, go to blastercorp.com. We're talking with Mike about maintenance, and this gentleman certainly knows maintenance. I dare say, Mike, have you ever had an engine to blow up on you in your lifetime?
Bobby, the strangest you should mention that. I was a flight instructor in a T-28, and it was my own airplane just about assigned to me. I was coming back from a flight, and I was always doing landings and stuff like that, so a lot of wear on the engine. And the RPM was just varying about 5 RPM at cruise, which it really hadn't done before. So at the end of the day, I wrote the thing up and said, hey, it's a little bit different. And I came in the next day to get the airplane, And they said, oh, it's over in maintenance. And I said, what for? And they said, well, they sent the oil sample over to the Naval Air Repair Facility here in Pensacola, and they did an oil analysis on it and said, oh, pull the engine. One of the main rod, the master rod in the engine, the bearings were about to fail. And that was just a 5 RPM fluctuation, which in an R1820 was hardly anything. So to answer your question, yes.
Well, and now, let me tell you how amazing that is, because, and folks, we're talking about maintenance and we're talking about oils, and I'd invite you to call 888-227-2546 if you have a question about your car, used or new. So Mike, the outfit, the organization that tested that oil for your plane was at that time known as JOAP. JOAP, and that is the Joint Oil Analysis Program, and it was conducted at Pensacola Naval Air Station, rather, not Navy, but the Naval Air Station. And the JOAP program was a program, get this, folks, and Mike, you'll appreciate this, their job was to analyze the lubricants and coolants of every vehicle that flies, floats, or rolls worldwide. And I had the opportunity, the Car Clinic Network did, it makes me just excited to think about it. They wanted to have one of their biennial, which is every other year, conventions in Pensacola, and it had been held over in Mobile, Alabama, for years. Well, somehow or other, they pulled some strings and got it here. I sponsored that event, which meant that I took my remote broadcast Car Clinic trailer, the one that we took to Daytona so many times, and to Effingham, Illinois, and other locations as well, California, at Pebble Beach. Anyway, I took that to the Pensacola Beach and set it up at a hotel there, and over the period of that weekend, including the broadcast that we broadcast from Pensacola Beach, I interviewed 26 tribologists. And folks, a tribologist is a brain surgeon, except that he's an oil person that knows all there is to know about oils and what have you. And I had an opportunity then to learn more about what oil does inside an engine than I collectively could in my lifetime, because I'm surrounded by and interviewed these 26 people. And Mr. Holland, Randy Holland, was in charge of the JOAP program. And I interviewed a gentleman from, Norway. And he says, yes, he said, I am in charge of my team of 10 people, and that's his total work team. We analyze everything that flies, floats, or rolls in Norway, and which is very interesting. And then I learned also that on every ship there is a lab. On every United States ship out there, there's a lab and there's a tribologist on board. And so, if you've been out for 3 months and you come in, and then I go out for 3 months, we say hello, goodbye, and I take over your lab. And the specifications are all, and the procedures are all codified. And what we do is we analyze every lubricant that is used on that, and imagine, a carrier, how much lubrication's on board that machine and all the airplanes and what have you. But what's really interesting about that is that back to my beta test that I wanted to share with you, and my booster shot that I created. Booster shot was an additive that was designed to be added to the engine oil after 2,500 miles. And then that means that, remember, if your oil starts out at a 7 or an 8 on a rating in a used engine, because it's contaminated by the old oil that's left in the engine when you change the oil, so this is a fact. Every car starts out about a 7 or an 8, except the newer ones, and they don't have any history or wear because they're brand new. So, but eventually they do. So, and the people who don't change their oil regularly, their engines are even more susceptible. So when they do change their oil after too long, the new oil is double damaged. So having said that, if you look at a 7 and then you go 2,500 miles and the oil rating is dropped to a 5 or a 4, and you go another 2,500 to 5,000 miles and it's dropped to a 2, between 2,500 and 5,000, or between 3,000 and 7,000 when you start to really think about what we change oil these days, how much damage is done and when? Well, the first batch of oil, its early life on, hardly any damage at all because everything's new and it's less debris. But that last 1,000 miles is where most of the engine oil, most of the engine damage occurs. And how do you know? Well, pull the dipstick out and look at it and you said, oh, well, I need to change this oil. Look how thick and yucky and smells funny and it has debris. You can't see it, but it's in there. And that's where the joint oil analysis program would come in because they would test the oils. So what I said, well, here's what we need to do. We don't need to change the oil at 2,500 because it's a waste of oil. The oil doesn't go bad. It's the additive package. So I created Booster Shot, and I trademarked that through a law firm in New York and still own that trademark. So at 2,500 miles, I said, well, let's put in an additive. Well, Mike, you are unlike other car owners. You're not going to come into a shop and change your oil and filter, and I give you a can of Booster Shot, and you add it 2,500 miles. So we added the Booster Shot up front. And this was designed primarily for conventional motor oil because the additives that we put, really the synthetic oil already had a lot of that. But here was my question. If I added more slickum, more ZDDP and additives to a fresh batch of synthetic oil, will it be too much? Would it be so slick that the rings might come away from the walls because there has to be a certain amount of friction there for the ring to seal? And I talked to Dr. Kaufman for almost 35 minutes. I recorded that and I listened to it several times, still have it somewhere. And he said, Bobby, and my question was, am I damaging or would I damage my engine or a customer's engine if I put in an additive with a fresh oil? Because they're not going to come back at 2,500. You can't trust the car owners to do that. So his answer was, if the engine does not use oil and it's already broken in, which means it's got 3,000 to 5,000 miles on it, then you will not, he said, a lot of the extra additives that you're added will just flash off and burn off and go away. It'll still be more additives, and zinc and phosphorus and other anti-wear properties at 2,000, 4,000, 6,000, and even 8,000 miles. It'll still be more. So that's how we applied that, and we would add that. And so getting back to my Booster Shot and my beta, I did Royal Purple oil plus fortified it with my Booster Shot, and out of 105 beta testers, I was number one in the United States. And I'll finish the story by telling you this. When I got the final results, and I saw the other results that I was privy to, then I learned, and I looked at my report, I said, wait a minute, this is not my car. Because the engine had been run, 5,000 miles, in 5,000 mile increments, but the testing showed hours, and if I divided the miles into hours, I was going 2 miles an hour. And I said, that doesn't make sense. I couldn't possibly have only driven 5,000 miles in this many hours. And but what I didn't know, and here's the kicker, and Mike and folks, this is important for you to know. See, I cranked up my engine at home, and then I drove to the office, or I cranked the engine up from the office and I drove downtown to lunch or out to dinner. And so I crank the car up and I drive, and I'm 8 minutes in the car. Okay, well, to me, that's 8 minutes in the car. Well, see, what I didn't count on and what I hadn't figured was when you turn the engine off, the oil is still hot, and there's still degradation going on. Furthermore, the specimen in the oil and a sample that was used, the tester, the IntelliStick, didn't come online until the engine reached until the oil temp reached 110 degrees. And the tester didn't shut down, because it was hardwired, until after the oil had come back to 110 degrees, or whatever their closing factor was. So while my window was 8 minutes, or 8 miles, or 15 minutes, the window of oil testing was expanded on the short side, the cold side, and the hot side. You understand what I'm saying there?
Absolutely.
So it was just amazing to me. And of course, I never told Dr. Kaufman. I told him, but I never told the other folks what I was doing, because that was something I was using as a test. So I was using that as a test so that I could learn just how effective my formulation was. And so that begs the story that everybody asks. And if you ask an oil manufacturer, do you put oil additives? Oh no, we don't believe in. We put the additives in when we make it. And I'll never forget, if you look at your owner's manual, my Viper said, do not use engine oil additives. And of course, I was using Royal Purple and my booster shot in that Viper, and I was doing dialysis on the old oil every year. But that's another story too. And so the book said, and I'll quote, do not use any oil additive in this Viper engine. However, if you should decide to use engine oil additive, make sure you use Chrysler, yada, 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 part number, so and so and so and so. So it was like, don't go buy an oil additives unless you buy ours. And I thought that was really sort of cool to think, when you think about it that way, that it's like Ford Motor Company says, don't change. Well, they didn't say don't change. They said that their transmission fluid was good. This is 5-6 years ago, for 150,000 miles. And all the manufacturers say, oh, yeah, our transmission fluid is good for 150. Well, good. How long do you warranty? Oh, 45,000 or 55. What? Wait a minute now. You're saying the transmission fluid's okay for 150,000 miles, but you're only warranting the transmission 50. What if something happens at 75? Well, I don't know. It's out of warranty. So I find it very interesting. And then I had a lady call, in finalization here, Mike. I had a lady call me who had her car to a dealer in another state, and it was a Toyota dealer, and she wanted to get her fluid changed at 30,000-mile increments, and the service manager says, we don't do that. What? No, we don't do that. We changed the oil at 60,000 miles, the transmission fluid at 60,000 miles, and without exception, and that's a strong statement. Without exception, I have yet to see a Toyota, and I just said they make the best cars. I've yet to see the transmission fluid come out of a Toyota with as little as 30,000 miles that wasn't darkened and oxidized and for best performance needed to be replaced. And I say that because the machines that we use have two transparent tubes, like a test tube. You see the old coming out and you see the new going in. And it's pretty easy to compare bright red transmission fluid with oxidized, darkened brown old fluid. And so it's just really very interesting. And so your call today really is a benefit to all of our listeners because, number one, you know how to take care of vehicles. And of course, your military background, you're the perfect customer to a shop because you don't have to convince Mike that his car needs attention before it breaks because he doesn't want it to break. And one last thing I found going back to JOAP, that Joint Oil Analysis Program. I met a gentleman from the UK, and when we take samples of engine oil, we use, and not just a regular bottle, because you can't, whatever's in the bottle will affect it. We use little capture bottles, and we catch, maybe 2-3 ounces of oil as it comes out of the pan, and you make sure that you've got a good stream of oil because you don't want any debris that falls out of it to start with. And we send that off and we get it analyzed, and that's a very interesting trending, and I have more information on oil filters I didn't get to, but in the next hour I promise folks that I will share with you the difference between a cellulose, a fiberglass, and a composite oil filter. And this is information that you can use when you have your car serviced next. Mike, thank you so much for your call. Always a pleasure to talk with you. And folks, I will remind you, coming up after the top of the hour, another great hour of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. And let me give you the number. It's 800-264-5454, but our other larger number, easier for you to remember, is 888 Car Clinic. That's 888-227-2546. another great hour coming up. And also, you can, I'll share with you media platforms where you can, if you missed the show, Google Podcast, iHeartRadio, and iTunes. I'm Bobby Likis. Like us, you'll love us.
This is Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is a copyrighted presentation of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated and may not be reproduced or rebroadcast without the express written approval of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated.
Folks, here's a great story for you. One of our listeners had to fly from Oregon to Maine to pick up his daughter and drive back home across country. She had an older Trailblazer that was not particularly well maintained. They rented a U-Haul, packed everything, and began the trek home. Shortly into the trip, the engine began to run hot due to a leaking radiator. The initial thought was, of course, to find a local shop that could help, but with shelter-in-place orders all around the country, that was difficult. They did find an auto parts store and purchased a bottle of K-Seal along with some coolant. K-Seal stopped the leak, and they finished their trip without any additional coolant leakage. Now, more than ever, it really pays to be prepared. Maintain an emergency road kit and be sure to include, among other items, a bottle of K-Seal. You can find K-Seal at fine parts stores nationwide, like Advance Auto Parts, and you can check the store website for hours and shipping information. And remember, if you have a coolant leak, don't seal it, K-Seal it. And remember, if you have a cooling system leak, don't just seal it, K-Seal it. For more information, go to kseal.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
If you're familiar with the Kulsiford section of the newspaper, you probably understand this message quite well. You see, in the Kulsiford section, everything gets abbreviated. Consonants, vowels, prepositional phrases, the very building blocks of our language are thrown right out the window. And that makes it difficult when you're trying to sell your car. You've got a limited amount of space to work with. And by the time you abbreviate the description of your car down to a couple of fragmented sentences, it sounds less like a car and more like a Bluck sedan with sniffed like new condition lemals. No wonder more people are selling their cars through eBay Motors. They can post unlimited text and photo descriptions, and with a nationwide marketplace, they're likely to sell it for more. Plus, both parties can be covered by eBay's Vehicle Protection Program. Buyers are happy, sellers are happy, and no one's abbreviating. eBay Motors, a better way to sell your car.
Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 3-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 1-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 30-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 10-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. If you have a car question for Bobby, call now at 1-800-264-5454, toll free from anywhere in America. And now, here's your host, Bobby Likis.
And a special welcome to this hour of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. So glad you tuned in today. So stay with me for the next hour. And if you have a question or a call, please get in early versus later in the program. The number for you to call is 888-227-2546. That's 888 Car Clinic. I see that we have a call from actually New York and Nebraska already, so the phones are going to fill up quickly. 888-227-2546. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is brought to you this morning in part by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Folks, when your battery goes dead, everything can come to a stop. Don't take a chance on getting stranded. O'Reilly Auto Parts will test your battery for free, and if it does need to be replaced, they can help you find the exact battery that fits your car or your truck at a guaranteed low price. Make sure your vehicle is prepared for the weather ahead. You can get your battery tested for free at O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. Oh, another point about O'Reilly Auto Parts. if you're doing a repair yourself, this is the coolest program that I didn't even know was available to this extent until today. If you're doing a repair that requires a special tool yourself, O'Reilly Auto Parts makes it easy with their loaner tool program. And you can make the tough jobs easy. And what's great, you just pay a deposit on that tool. And by the way, if you decide afterwards you want to keep the tool, the deposit, it's yours. You just keep it. Or you take it back and get a full refund in that shape. Back with your calls. Entertainment systems, backup camera, start-stop technology. Just a few of the electrical demands we put on today's cars. AGM, or absorbent glass mat batteries, are up to the challenge. They're precision engineered to offer the ultimate combination of power, durability, and reliability. What affects battery performance? Harsh climates, frequent stopping, rush hour traffic, and aggressive driving are all factors. With its compressed cell design and glass mat separators, AGM batteries are built to excel in these types of conditions. Learn more AGM advantages from Clarius at autobatteries.com. That's autobatteries.com.
O'Reilly.
Could your car use a spring cleaning? Now's the time to stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts for great deals on everything you need to keep your car looking new. Like Mother's California Gold Wash and Wax, just $4.99 for a 64-ounce bottle. That's a $6 savings. Or online at O'ReillyAuto.com. O'Reilly Auto Parts, better prices every day.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
You've heard me talk about Motorrad's leading the way with automotive thermostats, fuel, oil, and coolant caps. Now, Motorrad's using their expertise in Tier 1 OEM facilities to deliver advanced engine management solutions. Products like camshaft and crankshaft sensors, ignition coils, mass airflow sensors, even variable valve timing solenoids. And Motorrad's aftermarket products are designed and manufactured to meet or exceed original equipment specifications. Learn more about Motorrad products and industry-leading application coverage at Motorrad.com.
Did you just look down at your phone? You did it again, didn't you? You know, you're flying down the road in a 3-ton hunk of steel, and a text takes your eyes off the road for an average of 5 seconds. At 55 miles per hour, that's long enough to travel the length of a football field and cause some serious damage. Turn it off. Trust me, whatever it is, you'll live.
Learn more at StopTextStopWrecks.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Another lending success story from LendingTree.com.
Car dealers like playing games. They play percentage points, they play markups, but I don't like playing with my money. So I got my auto loan through LendingTree.com. I filled out one simple form, a marketplace of banks and lenders competed over it, and I got 4 offers back within hours. After all, the car buying game is a lot easier to win when you're holding all the cards.
LendingTree.com. When banks compete, you win. For additional information and state license disclosures, please visit our website located at LendingTree.com.
Driving has a rhythm all its own. Don't wreck it with a text. Before you get behind the wheel, silence your phone. Or better yet, designate a texter. For more text-free driving tips, visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
Okay, let's get started with today's program. In the open, I mentioned the O'Reilly Auto Parts Loaner Tool Program. And I kind of ran out of time there, so I wanted to remind you that there are tool categories, and they don't have every tool that you may need, but here are the categories where they do have, and it varies from store to store: steering and suspension, brake, tire, and wheel, diagnostic, engine and clutch, air conditioning and cooling, exhaust, general services, and then here's one important factor: pullers, because that's a tool that if you have to pull a harmonic balancer off to replace a seal behind it, you only need that once in a lifetime of a car, maybe. So you really don't want to go out and buy that tool. So with O'Reilly, you can rent that tool, or you can rent the tool to change your oil and filter, but you can rent whatever tool you need, and then the rental, and you bring it back, and the current condition, the same condition it was. You can't go out and break it, but you bring it back in the same condition, and you'll get a full refund. So it's a great loaner program. It allows you, if you are capable, and your expertise will allow you to do the right job with the right tool, then O'Reilly Auto Parts can certainly be and should be in the top of your mind. And just remember that the next time you say, gosh, I think I could do this myself, but I need to borrow a tool. Well, you can go borrow one from O'Reilly Auto Parts, and you buy the part from them. You give them a deposit. The deposit is the cost of the tool. You can either keep it or take it back. Your choice. How cool is that? Okay, let's get started. 888-227-2546. First call in, and first up is Jim from Nebraska. Jim, good morning. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Glad to have you join us.
Good morning, Bobby. Yes, my name is Jim, and just yesterday, actually the day before, I went into O'Reilly and bought a new battery.
Cool.
And I have a 98 Chevy Malibu LE.
Okay.
Can you tell me what the LE stands for?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, it's called marketing, and what manufacturers do. That's a favorite question I have. LE, SE, SEL, SS. I mean, there's so many. You know, my car is XJL. The XJ is it's a Jag, and the XJ is the XJ body series. The L stands for long version because my car's 5.5 inches longer. So different manufacturers, and I got to tell you, Jim, the Germans started this, you know, as I remember, and I could be corrected here because I haven't done any studies, except that years ago I bought a 75 450 SEL, which was the...
That's not my main question, though, Bobby.
Well, what's your main question?
Is it limited edition?
Well, yeah, limited edition, but the point is, limited edition, special edition, road off-road edition. So manufacturers build base cars, and they have base prices. So if you want a new car and you see a dealer advertised at a dealership, you know, it's like, let's say it's $19,995, $20,000. So you go in there and you said, oh, okay, this car's $20,000, but this one in stock is $21,500. Well, why is that? Well, because it's an LE, it's a limited edition, or it's an SE, it's a special edition, and it has a better interior, or power windows versus roll-up hand crank windows, or automatic temperature control versus the old manual temperature controls. So that's where all that comes from. And then, you know, now look at Audi. Audi's the one that Q4, 5, M6, the M series, and Mercedes as well. So originally that's where all those numbers really came from in letters. Designations were specific automobiles. But what's really interesting is if you order a new, let's say a new Jag or a new Audi or a new Mercedes, and I'm not sure about a new Lincoln or how the American manufacturers list it, you can have a badge delete, which means that on the trunk of the car, it doesn't have anything. Like if I were to order a Jag, it'd have the Jag emblem, and it would say Jaguar, but it wouldn't have XJL. It would have nothing. It would be blank. And I think that originated, I believe this to be true, in Germany, because a lot of people in Germany would buy what people look like the S series, which was the big series, and it'd be a 500, which would be the really expensive one.
Bobby.
Or you could delete it and have nothing, and then you're following a car down the highway and you don't know what version it is because it doesn't have any designation. But what is your question?
My question is, I went into O'Reilly the day before yesterday and bought a new battery.
Okay.
And of course, they put it in for me.
Okay.
When I pulled in, I had 3/4 of a tank of gas. And he put in the nice new battery. And then when I got in to leave, my gas gauge read 0.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went back in and got the guy, and he looked at it, and he was totally stumped. He says, well, I don't know. And then after looking at it, he said, when he put in the new battery, the needle went all the way to the right and got stuck on that little pin where usually when you turn the engine off, the needle goes and rests on that pin. It shows empty, and then when you start it, it'll show you how much gas you have. But this time it's on the other side of that little pin, and it's staying there. So I have no idea how much gas I have.
Oh, wow. You know, I had that happen.
Have you ever heard of such a thing?
Well, not exactly, except that I did have an instance in my Viper. Now that you sparked my memory, I was a little having fun one night, and I was driving in the rain. And of course, you don't drive Vipers in the rain. And I was actually downtown, so I wasn't speeding. But when I let the clutch out, you know, in first gear, the tires spun. And because the Viper has a very active equalock or positive traction differential, which means that both tires are going to turn regardless versus one. So when both tires, rear tires, turn and spin, guess what? The back of the car comes around. In fact, Vipers are known, anyone that's ever owned a Viper has backed it into a curb or at least got it to come around on them. And so I did that night. And when I did, I backed it into a curb. Luckily for me, when it spun in first gear, and I said, well, how fun. And I put it in second gear, and did it. Next thing I know, I'm going backwards. Luckily, of course, not luckily, I damaged a special three-piece HRE wheel. Cost me $1,500, hurt my feelings, my pocketbook. But when I backed that into a curb, it actually, when I cranked it up, and I was able to drive it, and you know, other than the fact that the wheel was warped, and I fixed that, no problem. It didn't hurt the car, but it hurt my feelings. It had one of the gauges, and I don't remember which one, didn't work, and it was stuck on the other side of the needle. And I think what happened was the impact when I bam into the curb and the engine stopped, the needle through inertia got on the other side. And so, you know, I said, well, I could see it, just like you're looking at your car. And so I went bam, and I hit the dash, and when I did, it vibrated, and the needle cleared, and it fixed it. Now, I'm not saying that you beat on your dash, but
I did.
And did you try? You tried that already. It worked for me.
Yeah.
Didn't work for you, huh? Well, there's nothing that changing a battery would do that would affect the gas gauge. The gas gauge, the gauge itself probably is going to have to be replaced in order to fix that. Because the changing out of a battery, now when you change a battery on today's cars, you're supposed to use a backup source so that you don't lose preset stations. And also, the engine has its idle learn, and other transmission shift things and what have you. So whenever we change a battery in the car, we use a booster battery, and we supply the car with 12 volts so that when we take the original battery out, the car never knows the battery was gone, because we've actually got another battery connected to it, on the terminals. You know, most cars have a terminal, and you have to be careful, because if you're going to supply voltage to a terminal, the ground is anywhere on the car, but the hot is at the battery. So if you're going to replace a battery, if that's where the terminal is, you have to make sure that your booster or your supply charge stays on the terminal. But if you have a wrench on it, then sometimes that could pop off, and you lose your voltage, and then that would cause the car to revert to an original condition. So,
Bobby, can I
quickly?
take
Yes.
off the
Okay.
plastic cover and just reach in there and put it on the other side of the pin?
I don't think that cover, but you can try that. Absolutely, you can. If you can get the face plate off without damaging anything, you've got nothing to lose. You got to get the cluster out to do that, but I would do that by all means, Jim. Hey, thanks for your call. I got to go, folks. I'll be back after a short commercial break and take your calls at 888 Car Clinic. Spring has sprung, and with COVID-19 center stage, it's never been more important to be car care aware. The Car Care Council reminds you that April is National Car Care Month. Here are a few things you should consider as you prepare for the months ahead. April showers can bring hazardous driving conditions with slick, wet roads. It's a great time to make sure your brakes, tires, and windshield wipers are ready for the rain. Talking specifically about your brakes, how can you tell something's wrong? There are a number of signs. If your brakes are spongy or squealing, or if you can't stop without pumping, or other indicators include your car pulling to one side when stopping, your brake pedal sitting lower than normal, and your brakes requiring excessive pressure or grabbing with the least amount of pressure. Any of these symptoms mean you likely need your brakes inspected. For more great tips, videos, and recommended service schedules, visit carcare.org. And while you're there, order a free copy of the Car Care Guide for your glove box. That's carcare.org. Today's Repair Spotlight is for gasoline-powered engines with 60,000 plus miles. At this age and high mileage, vehicles can develop irritating small oil leaks that can make a mess and ultimately cause serious damage to engine and chassis components. The solution? Berryman's B60 High Mileage Oil System Rejuvenator. It's simple to use and safe for engine components like catalytic converters and oxygen sensors. Berryman B60 High Mileage Oil System Rejuvenator cleans and protects the crankcase and engine oil system on all gas-powered vehicles, and conditions and revitalizes seals and gaskets to help stop oil leaks. Berryman B60 High Mileage Oil System Rejuvenator contains zinc-based ZDDP and molybdenum moly to help fight friction, heat, and wear. It helps prevent sludge formation to maximize engine performance and life. Don't put up with those pesky oil leaks. Add some Berryman B60 to your motor oil and add another level of protection for your engine. Learn more about Berryman B60 and other great products at berrymanproducts.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Telephone tip
from Geico Auto Insurance.
When calling Geico to switch your car insurance, you will not need acetaminophen, naproxen, indomethacin, ibuprofen, a cold compress, an on-call acupuncturist, or any other pain remedy. In 15 minutes, you could save 15% or more. If it were any more painless, you could do it in your sleep, which is theoretically possible since we offer complete 24-hour service. Call 1-800-947-AUTO, 1-800-947-AUTO. Geico Direct, the sensible alternative.
When you purchase the latest TV, tablet, or smartphone, don't forget to do the right thing with your old ones. Recycle them. The Consumer Technology Association and its members are making recycling your old devices as easy as buying new ones. Just go to greenergadgets.org, type in your zip code, and you'll instantly find the recycling location closest to your home. You'll also find recycling tips, like asking the store where you buy your new TV if they'll haul away your old one. Don't let your old tech tools clog your local landfill. Just visit greenergadgets.org.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to this segment. Glad to have you join me. And remember, every Saturday from 10 till noon Eastern Time, we come to you live from the center of the automotive universe. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is brought to you in part by Grundy Insurance, folks. You can protect your prized collector car the right way with Grundy Agreed Value Insurance, which gives you 100% of the value of your car in the event of a total loss. You can learn more at Grundy.com. That's Grundy.com. 888-227-2546. Take a call from Michael in New York. Michael, thanks for holding. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Hi, thank you. My question actually ties in with your last answer to the previous caller.
Okay.
This concerns changing a battery.
Mm-hmm.
So I was going to ask you, I know with these newer cars, I'm changing a battery. I need to change a battery on a 16 Audi Q3.
Mm-hmm.
So I've read that these new cars, the computers need to be maintained when you remove the battery, otherwise they have to be reset, and that's why some of these dealers charge a tremendous amount of money to change batteries.
Mm-hmm.
So you were talking about maintaining a charge on the in your shop
Mm-hmm.
on the battery when you change these. So can I use a trickle charger, putting it on the terminals, and when I remove them, as I'm removing them, to keep the computer to think that it's the battery is still there?
Michael, I'm not sure that a trickle charger, because most trickle chargers have to see voltage, and I'll give you an example. I use a digital. It's a D400 Optima digital charger to maintain my classic car, and which is a Porsche. It's a 1980 model automobile. That actually I'm having it serviced today with a dry ice blasting process, which is very interesting, and the chassis to make it look new. Having said that, if the battery goes dead, and it has over the last 15 years that I haven't driven this car, stored the car, I drive it about every 3 months, and I don't crank it until I'm going to drive it or run it for 30 minutes, because to crank it and run it 5 minutes creates moisture and is not good on any engine, believe it or not. So, folks, if you're storing a car, don't go out and crank it every week or every 1 month and let it run 5 minutes and think you're doing the right thing. If you're not going to run it for 25 to 30 minutes, don't start it. Anyway, having said that, Michael, on occasion, before I used the digital Keep Alive that's 24/7, when you hook up one of those machines, those computers, and the battery's stone dead, it will not energize. You have to use a jumper battery to get juices flowing, and then once you do, you can take the jumper battery off, and the trickle charger will continue to do its job and restore the battery. So, using that knowledge and that circumstance that I have a knowledge of, and it has happened to me several occasions, I don't think that if you remove the battery from a vehicle, that the trickle charger would still continue to charge the system, because it doesn't get feedback, and those things are computer controlled and they have to see feedback. So for example, if you were to hook the two wires together on the trickle charger, it would say wrong connection, bad connection, because they're automatically protected. And if you put the negative on the positive and vice versa, it still wouldn't damage anything, because it would say wrong connection. So what you can do, though, is you can take another battery, another 12-volt battery, and jumper cables, and hook to the jumper. And on your Q3, there, of course, you can ground anywhere, but there should be a jumper connection. Is the battery under the hood, under the seat, or in the trunk?
Right. No, it's under the hood, and yeah, I see. It's like it almost looks like a bolt.
Yeah.
To the side of the battery.
Exactly.
I've been trying to.
And that bolt is a positive location, and then there's a negative bolt too. Is that correct?
That's well. There's no positive. That's for the negative, but there's no positive bolt. It's just the conventional putting it on the.
Okay, then what you have to make sure is that what I would do is you still have to use jumper cables. You still have to use a known battery or a jump starter. It's what we use. You still have to use a known battery that has 12 volts, or at least 9 to 12, and keep the car alive, keep alive memory. And you have to do that so that you'll have no problems, because for sure you don't want to disconnect that battery. In fact, my car start-stop battery failed, and I had to replace it. It was a very expensive battery, and I didn't do it right away because it was $400, but I didn't like that. I didn't like the start-stop anyway, still don't like it, but I couldn't have anything that didn't work on my car. It just not my nature. But I drove it for 6 months or a year, or as long as it seemed like a year. I drove it for 6 months without the start-stop feature. I thought I'd trained the car. I keep turning it off every time I get in, and it didn't have, like BMWs and Audis, it didn't have that program so that the system would stay where the driver left it. And in other words, it defaulted to automatically be on. So every time I got in the car, I had to reach over to the farthest right-hand button and push the default button. And I have a shoulder operation, and I have a right issue with my right shoulder, so I had to use my left arm to reach all the way over, and it was a pain. And I still do that to this day. But I said all that to say this. I put the new start-stop battery, and yes, I had to reprogram the vehicle to make it work. So you should be able to find a known positive. You can't use a cigarette lighter, because a lot of times the cigarette lighter is not hooked to the car when the key is turned off. I mean, in other words, a power. If you had a battery, you could use a cigarette lighter. But see, if it's not connected, when it's off, if that lighter is not hot 24/7, and I don't think there may be in your. Do you know if there's a receptacle that is powered when the key is turned off?
No, it's my wife's car. I never
Yeah,
drive
yeah,
it,
I think
so.
so. Well,
You know what I'm saying?
do
So
you?
it's very interesting. I'm sorry to interrupt.
It's
Bobby,
okay. No,
but
no,
I
no.
once read that for doing something like this, there was a type of tool that you plug into the I don't know, like the computer module under the steering wheel, and then when you do check all the codes, you plug it into that, and then you could put there like a trickle charger or a battery charger. I don't know, and that would kind of fools the
Right.
car.
Right. It would hold keep alive memory, and yes, for sure there is a hot on the data port, which is a OBD2, and all cars have it, and yours has it too. But we don't use that, and I'll tell you why. Those are that's sort of it's a remote data port, and there's no wire there that's capable of handling any heavy loads. And I would be concerned that if you were to try to use that, but you can do some research, but it's something that we don't do because we have jump starters. We have boosters.
Yeah, I'm going to use it as just another battery.
Yeah, use another battery and find. Yeah. Okay. You see, when you do that, when you disconnect your battery and you got another source, your car never knows that it's gone. And then you put it back in, and then you're good to go. I'm glad you called. It's a great subject, and let me know how it works out for you when you get on the other side.
Great. Thanks very much. Love your show.
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate your comments. 888-227-2546 from New York to Pennsylvania. Walter, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Thank you so much for holding.
Hello.
Hello, sir. You're on the air.
Hi.
Hi.
Great. Hey, I was able to buy from a retired Air Force colonel a beautiful 1992 Nissan truck.
Wow.
However, the temperature gauge shoots right to hot, and the gas gauge is always on full.
Well, there's a voltage regulator that it controls the amount of voltage that goes to gauges.
Right. Okay.
And in older cars, it was a separate little piece that bolted on the back of the dash, but those are long since gone. Today, that voltage regulator more than likely is made into the body control module. It's possible that it's made into the dash cluster itself, but regardless, your fuel gauge and your temp gauge, the only thing that they have in common, other than the fact that they're located in the cluster, is the fact that they're supplied by a voltage-controlled positive. And here's why. The temperature gauge uses a thermistor. The temperature gauge and the fuel gauge uses a rheostat, just like you turn a dimmer switch in your home or you turn a radio down and up. That's a rheostat. So when you have low fuel level, like a toilet bowl, the bulb falls down in the tank, and the arm moves across a set of wires and a rheostat, which is wires. So it changes the grounding factor of the gauge, and if you got if you have the same voltage, let's say you have 12 volts, and you have a half a ground, you got a half a tank. If you got a whole ground, you got a full tank. If you got almost zero ground, you got no gas. Now, that's to say, if you have 12 volts. But what if you're driving down the road, you don't have 12 volts, you got 14 or 15. So, in all cars, forever, since gauges were installed, none of the car's gauges get full voltage, because the car's full voltage would be more or less. It would be 12 volts when you crank it, or 9, and it would be 15 running down the road. So they use voltage regulators that supply a constant, and it's called a constant voltage regulator in older cars. In today's cars, the body control module sends constant voltage, which is probably, 9.5 volts. Doesn't matter. It's less than the minimum that the battery would have at all times so that it's constant, so that any change in grounds would change temperature reading and gas gauge reading. You got it?
Okay.
And that's
So I've replaced the sensors, and that didn't help. There's two. One goes to the UTO.
It's in the gauge. It's in the gauge, and you're probably going to need a wiring diagram. But I would dig a little deeper in that. It's possible, just possible, that a professional scan tool, not one that you can rent at a parts store, but a professional scan tool could go in and read the voltage going to those gauges, and if neither of those gauges had voltage, then you know it wasn't the fuel tank sender or the other sender, it was the actual body control module or the supply voltage to those wires. Hey, thanks for calling, Walter. Got a hard break. I'll be back and take your calls at 888 Car Clinic. This Pro Project brought to you by Blaster and their new Pro Straw. Featuring Pro Project brought to you by Pro Project brought to you by Blaster, featuring finishing a brake job is stopped in its tracks when it comes time to bleed the system and the bleeders are frozen or rusted in place. Before attempting to loosen the bleeder screws on brake calipers, use the original PB Blaster penetrant to help free up the bleeder screws without damaging them or even breaking them off. Blaster's revolutionary new Pro Straw gives you the ability to apply just a few drops as needed. We suggest applying Blaster prior to starting the brake repair to allow some time for it to thoroughly soak in. You can then add a second round of drops if needed. And by chance the bleeders just don't want to move, you'll know before you replace the pads and rotor, so you can also replace the calipers. PB Blaster is available at a home, auto, or hardware store near you. Work it like a pro with Blaster products. For more information, go to blastercorp.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
More than 1 million wild animals are killed each year illegally. Poaching is a major threat to our country's wildlife. I'm Tom Barry. I'm an actor with a desire to preserve living space for wildlife. The Humane Society Wildlife Land Trust does just that. Works with private landowners to protect wildlife, to preserve natural habitats. To learn more or to work with the Humane Society Wildlife Land Trust, call 800-729-SAVE. That's 800-729-SAVE, or visit wildlifelandtrust.org. Thank you.
Did you know 26 million Americans have kidney disease and most don't know it?
The day I was diagnosed, I didn't know what to do. I called the National Kidney Foundation, and the young lady who answered stayed on the phone with me and walked me through step by step. She too was surviving kidney disease, and she showed me there could be life after kidney disease.
Visit the National Kidney Foundation at kidney.org. Now you know.
We're a land of cynics. We don't believe anything anymore. You know why? Because we've been told we've won $1 million, that it's new and improved, that it slices and dices, that our favorite singer is still alive, that we'll be prosecuted if we cut off the tags, and of course that everything is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee. So when we hear the words customer service, we don't believe it. Travelocity isn't surprised if you're a little skeptical when they say they have excellent customer service, and that there's actually a pleasant face behind this website, a living, breathing person with a supercharged computer full of answers. Someone who's willing to help when you get lost, and most of all, someone that will actually pick up the phone when you call with a question or a concern. Customer service is just another example of how Travelocity puts you in control of travel. Chances are you'll never have to use it, but it's good to know it'll be there if you need it. Travelocity.com. Go virtually anywhere.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
Folks, sure is great to have you tune in every Saturday from 10 till noon Eastern Time. We also want to make it easy for you to catch the program just in case you miss something. So to make it easy, if you want to listen to it during the week, we have podcast on the go. And let me give you some venues, and so that you'll know where to go to get the program if you're not available on a Saturday or you're away from your radio or your computer. Castbox, Deezer, Podcast Addict, Podchaser, Spreaker, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio. So those are just some of the venues, and I would ask you, if you feel like that I've helped you, I would ask you to please subscribe to our podcast and share it with your family and friends, and leave us a review there and let us know how the knowledge and the advice that I present to you on this program may have helped you to become a more educated car owner. And last but not least, like us. That's like us. Like us, you'll love us. Okay. Like Bobby Likis. Bobby Likis. That's Likis. Like Bobby Likis on Facebook, and follow Bobby Likis on Twitter to receive the latest updates. So with that, I again appreciate your calls and your confidence in me, and it makes me on Saturday mornings rise to another level, and it's worked for going on 29 years now. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is brought to you in part this morning by K-Seal. It's one of my favorite partners. And folks, it pays to be prepared, so make sure that you keep a bottle of K-Seal in your trunk so that if you have a cooling system leak on the side of the road, you can fix it. You can find K-Seal at stores like Walmart, which are everywhere, and you can check the store website for hours about shipping information if you want them to ship you the part. Anyway, remember, when you have a cooling system leak, whether it's a water pump or a head gasket, heaven forbid, or a radiator, don't just seal it, K-Seal it. For more information, check out kseal.com. Next caller up is from South Carolina, Larry. Larry, thank you for holding. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Oh, you hear me all right, Bobby?
I sure do. Thank you. Thanks for holding.
Okay, no problem. I just had a comment. The fellow that called in that had the stuck gauge after he changed his battery.
Yeah.
I had a squirrely oil gauge one time. A sender was sending it just crazy stuff, and it flipped so hard it went past the peg and went all the way around the other side.
Wow.
Similar to what this is, I think. Anyway, my local mechanic, we were scratching our head about that, and he said, "Oh, wait a minute." He went in his toolbox, he grabbed a strong permanent magnet, and he put it up against the glass on the dash, and the pointer was metal.
Yeah.
So he just pulled it around with the magnet to the other side of the peg.
Wow.
I was amazed.
Well, I would have never thought about that.
This guy's a car whisperer.
Well, I'll tell you what, he is that for sure, because, and you know, from time to time, and I haven't done this in years, with my girls when they were young, I used to tease them, and I would put something on the table, and I would put a magnet under the table, and I would say, "I'm going to make this move," and do the, magic, and they would look at me, and finally they caught on. And another thing I used to tell them, look at this magic. All I have to do is take this wire and plug it in there and watch this light come on. And they'd look at me, "Dad, don't pull that trick on me." But it was really funny. But now that you mention it, I can see where that would work. The problem with a lot of cars is the cluster, is rounded, and the gauges are flat and they're away from the front. So there's how clusters are made. But in your case, that was a great idea. So that's pretty cool. And folks, what Larry was talking about is an earlier caller had changed his battery out, and the gas gauge was on the other side of all the way up to the needle top, and all he did was change the battery, but then that caused that. But so Larry, thank you so much. Where do you live in South Carolina?
Anderson.
Henderson or Anderson?
Anderson.
Well, we sure appreciate your call and appreciate you tuning in, and thank you for that tidbit of information. That's indeed ingenious. So smart fellow that you had, smart technician for sure.
Can I give him a shout out? The shop?
Absolutely. What's his name?
It's Automotive Associates here in Anderson. They're a great shop. Best. They've been here for it's a father-son operation. Dad still comes in, but he's getting on in years, and the boys have taken over, and it's a great shop. So.
Well, that is really good. And that shop, mention it one more time, the name of that shop in Anderson, South Carolina?
Automotive Associates.
Automotive Associates. Well, we sure appreciate that. Sounds like you've got a great connection there, and that sounds like music to my ears. I thank you and look forward to hearing from you any Saturday from 10 to noon Eastern Time. Thank you again, Larry.
All right. Thank you, Bobby.
And that's pretty cool, folks. That's a great story. I just couldn't. I can only imagine. Hey, let's try this, and it works. I mean, it's like one of those wave your magic hand. Indeed, the Anderson there, they did wave a magic wand, except it was a magnet wand. Let's go to Bill in another South Carolina call. Bill, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Thanks for holding.
Good morning, Bobby.
Morning.
Appreciate you taking my call.
Thank you, sir.
08
Okay.
Ford Expedition.
Okay.
I've got a tire sensor light coming on after about 50 plus miles of driving. Then if the car sets overnight, it'll go out and repeat the same thing again. It is not individual sensor pressure from each tire, so it's controlled by that speedometer, I guess, in the wheel.
Yes, sir.
Any ideas on? It seems like a heat factor.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. It
No
does.
no codes at all. Cannot pull a code. Never had a check engine light.
Right. There are special scan tools, special tools that can reprogram. Well, yeah, but those scan tools are not. You don't have that. They're two different systems here, folks. Bill, they're two different tire pressure monitoring systems. One is a direct, which means you have a sensor in each wheel with a battery-powered radio, and it sends a radio signal to the car, and the car's got its own little knows where the right front is and right rear and yada yada. Okay. The other is an independent, and it uses the ABS, the anti-lock brake system, and which means that each wheel has its own speedometer, and as the car is driven, the speed of each wheel is recorded, and if one of the wheels, like in a panic, were to lock up, it's raining and you nail it and the right rear locks up, then the computer says, wait a minute, I've got 3 tires that are going 50 miles an hour and one that's going 0. Let's let off the brake of that one that's going 0 because we know that's where it's locked up. Having said that, that's used also on the opposite for traction control if you're at a standstill. Now, what you probably have, Bill, is one of the sensors, and there are 4-stage ABS systems and 3-stage. 4-stage means you have a speedometer in each of the front wheels and one speed sensor in the differential that tells the speed of the differential. But I believe in your Expedition, you're going to have a sensor in each of the 4 wheels. Each of the axles is going to have its own speed sensor. So what you can do, even though you don't have a check engine light and haven't had one, using a professional scan tool, a technician can read out the voltage of each of those tire wheel combinations individually. And you put the car on the rack and you hook up your monitor and you turn the wheel, and if you even at hand speed, there will be a voltage reading from the right front, right rear, and left rear. And obviously that doesn't mean that it's going to show differently because during testing, because you're talking about you got to drive 30 minutes. So it does tell me that in that 30 minutes there's something that's changing. And normally what changes with heat, with road speed or with time operation is heat. And so you may have something so simple as one of the connectors that is losing its contact. But if it did, you would think that it would have a sensor, it would have a recorded, it would leave a code of some sorts. But you said there's no codes. So what I would do, and what our team would do, would be to use our professional scan tool, and we would simulate on the rack half a mile an hour, 2 miles an hour, whatever you spin the wheel with your hand, and read that speed. And let's face it, if you turn the wheel with your hand to whatever degree you can, and what your scan tool reads, let's say 10%, and then you go to the other ones, and they're all reading 10, and you got one that reads 7% or 6%. It depends on the difference. You know, I'm not saying they're all going to read 10%, or I'm not saying that's the reading. I'm just saying that that's the methodology that I would suggest that you use to fix the car and fix the problem that you called in. That makes sense?
Yes, it does. The only thing that I do see on it is a left front wheel that I did a brake job on the car just before we went to Florida last year.
Right.
And the insulation, the black coating over the cable is free, but that shouldn't affect
No, it shouldn't. It really, you mean you're talking about over the speed sensor?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that really shouldn't affect it. However, that it does cause me to suspect, and that might be the first thing. And you know what? If this rears its ugly head after X amount of time, like you said it did, and you know where that particular part is, and you can get to it, what's wrong with pulling over to the side of the road, way off the road, leave the vehicle running so you don't reboot the computer, and then turn the wheel to the right or left to make it easy enough, and put your arm back in there and wiggle that wire around. You know where it is. You could try this. In fact, you could try it in the driveway at home so that when you get on the road, you could do it blindfolded, if you know what I'm saying. And then
I can try that, but as I say, it does take 50-plus miles.
Well, there you go then. Yeah, and see, there's the problem that would give the technician that would be challenged with the job, because the technician's not going to go out and drive at 50 miles. We can't do that. So you can save yourself money. I'm glad you called, because you can save yourself money, because you can duplicate the problem, and then you can also jiggle and wiggle the wire. And who knows, once you do it on one side, who knows, you can't do it on the rear because you can't get to them. But on the front, you can get to both of them. So do one side and then drive off down the road. And if it happens again, don't think, if it goes away, don't think that we've got it until you duplicate it and you do it twice. And if you can do it twice, then you'll know, hey, I got it. That makes sense?
Yes, sir. It sure does.
Yeah. Hey,
I'll give that a try, Bobby. And as I say, it's been doing it, and I haven't gotten beyond the gate of the scanner. I've used, just a simple scanner on it.
Right. I got you. Well, it's going to take.
Alrighty, I'll give that a try.
Okay. Do that. Yeah, do that. Give it a try. Nothing to lose, and just take care of where you're going to pull off. That's all. Thanks for your call, Bill.
Okay. Thank you much. Have a good day.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Appreciate your call. Let's go to Jim in New York. Short on time, but Jim, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Yeah, Bob, I've talked to you before. I've got something. I don't know if you can help me or not. I'm just frustrated.
Okay.
I've got a 66 Corvette. Brake caliper was leaking because of storage. I replaced those calipers 20 years ago, and this is the first time I've had trouble.
Right.
But now the right front, I've replaced that caliper with a rebuild from AutoZone 3 times, and I thought I had a bad caliper. It kept leaking. Well, I put the last one on, no leaks. After 4 days, I thought, I'm going to look under there. Well, I'll be darned if it's leaking again.
Well, where's the leak?
Into that in your life.
Well, it depends on where the leak is. The leak where the fitting goes into the, or is it the caliper piston?
It's not. It's not leaking at the brake line. No, it's not. It's coming right out of the caliper.
Well, that's nothing that you did. There's nothing you can do. And I'll tell you what, that is strange to get 3 of those. But obviously, it's a caliper. It's a piston with a seal. Maybe there's a bad batch there. What was the time span? Well, I'm out of time. Jim, do a little more research. Call me next week earlier, because I have some questions of you, and that car's not going anywhere. And I just had a similar occurrence with my brake caliper in my Porsche that locked up after I overhauled them, but it was in 2004, and it's been sitting, and the rears didn't lock up because I would use the parking brake and exercise the calipers, but I didn't drive the car but 1,500 miles since '04, and the front pistons, when I drove it to go on a photo shoot, the left front caliper seized, and I had to stop and and wait on the side of the interstate. And then I later on, after the photo shoot, took the caliper apart, and sure enough, it was rusted because I had not changed the fluid. I hadn't driven a car, but even worse, here in Florida, that shows you the hygroscopic brake fluid. Hey, call me next week earlier, Jim, and thank you so much for your call in New York. Folks, I talked about earlier cellulose, fiberglass, synthetic, and composite oil filters. When I open the program next week, I want to share with you the different types of material used for oil filters and the good, the bad, and the uglies of that. So thanks for tuning in. I'll see you Saturday, 10 to noon Eastern Time. I'm Bobby Likis. Likis, you'll love us.
This is Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is a copyrighted presentation of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated and may not be reproduced or rebroadcast without the express written approval of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated.
Insurance 101, courtesy of Grundy Insurance. Coverage gaps, holes in your vehicle insurance that leave you lacking necessary protection. Reasons include working with multiple agents, setting unequal liability limits in a fluctuating market. Grundy's MVP, or motor vehicle program, provides coverage for both collectors and daily drivers on one policy, both with agreed value coverage. Grundy's MVP consolidates your exposures and offers broader coverage with equal policy limits, agreed value, and the added 150% valuation clause. Find out more at the Insurance 101 section at Grundy.com. That's Grundy.com. Folks, you regularly hear testimonials on our program where everyday drivers share their experiences with products featuring Hest, Berryman's exclusive high-energy solvent technology. As we all work together to get past COVID-19, Berryman remains steadfast in their commitment to keep developing products necessary so everyday people are able to drive dependable cars. Products like Berryman B12 Chem Tool, which can help remove carbon deposits in engines and improve drivability. Learn more about Berryman B12 Chem Tool and other Berryman products at berrymanproducts.com. That's berrymanproducts.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
P. Ricey Outfitters, I'm Tina. How can I help you?
I'd like to place an order.
Great. Which item?
The cotton roll neck sweater, large.
Okay. Periwinkle, Loden, or caramel?
The caramel, please.
The what?
I'd like it in caramel.
Oh, the caramel?
Yeah, that's what I said, Tina.
Actually, you said caramel when it's pronounced caramel.
Can't we just call it yellow?
No.
Everyone knows the best part of a Milky Way. They just don't know how to say it. After all, it's our caramel.
It's caramel.
Ugh, that makes a Milky Way great.
You start my morning, you stir in my soul, you warm my heart, make me feel whole. Your aroma calls me, it starts my morning. Happy morning, your name is Folgers Mountain Grow. Now you're here, your aroma helps me wake, and the day is mine to take. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
Diane's computer. Okay, all right, sounds